Hi, thanks for joining us. This is our extended interview with Stephanie Everett, where after the Facebook Live ended, we talked further about specific action steps that law firms can take right now coming out of the pandemic. The first part of this video is from our GNGF Live, which happens every other Wednesday. The second part here is the bonus extended interview, and if you already saw the live, I'll put a timestamp to the exclusive interview where it starts down below. So be sure to like and subscribe to follow along with all of our great conversations on legal marketing and the business side of running a law firm. And to watch this video on the platform of your choice, you can find everywhere we stream at gngf.tv. Welcome to GNGF Live, your bi-weekly Ask the Experts about all things law firm marketing and business growth. I'm Mark Homer, author of Online Law Practice Strategy and founder of Get Noticed, Get Found. I'm excited to have today's guest, Stephanie Everett from the Lawyerist team. Stephanie is a lawyer who built a successful law practice and now is an author, teacher, and consultant to law firm owners worldwide. If you sometimes feel stuck in your law firm business and know that you need to be working on your business more, then you're really going to like what Stephanie has to say. As always, though, be sure to like and subscribe to our page, not just the video, so you can be updated whenever we go live in the future. Of course, it never hurts for you to use all that legal prowess to smash that like button on the video to help us out in the Facebook and YouTube algorithms. So this is another video that we recorded when convenient for our guests, and we recorded it ahead of the actual Facebook Live. So we're streaming this during the Facebook Live, but it was recorded before. But we are in the chat, so please ask questions, interact, and everything as usual while we're live. If you're watching this in the future after the Facebook Live, we do monitor the comments on Facebook and on YouTube, and we'll look to try to get back to our guests to answer any questions that you may have. On weeks when we're not streaming interviews, we do release on YouTube our GNGF tip series, which are videos specific to kind of like one marketing or business side of law topic. So check it out on our YouTube page. And Joe, can you drop a link in the chat for one of our recent videos, and then we can you guys can check that out, check out our YouTube page, and subscribe there. Okay, let's get to the interview. Stephanie, thanks for joining me today.
Glad to be here.
So we've gotten to know each other at legal conferences, but for the benefit of the audience, can you introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, I'm Stephanie Everett, and I guide lawyers to create healthier law firms.
Awesome. So we've had an interesting conversation about some of your past experience and how that led you to the work you do today at Lawyerist, but I'd love for you to share that with the audience.
Yeah, so I'm a lawyer, graduated law school, went to big law, thought that that's where I would retire because that's, I don't know what you do after law school. You think this is where I'm going to work for the next 40 years. About 6 years in, had the opportunity to start my own practice with a partner, which I had no idea I would ever do. But we left the big law with, it was the two of us. We took my legal assistant with us. And in about 7 years, we grew that firm to 20 people. And it was awesome. I was the managing partner, and all of a sudden I discovered this love I had for running a business. My dad was a business owner, and we always were trading business books and self-help books. That just was our hobby. And I just loved the business aspect of running a firm. So in 2015, when I was ready to kind of make a shift in my life, I started looking at all the things I was doing, especially my volunteer work. At that point, I was teaching and coaching collegiate women on leadership skills and working with a school in Haiti. And I was like, you know what, maybe there's something here. And all these people, colleagues were coming to me saying, how did you grow your firm so quickly? What are you doing? And in those conversations, I started discovering that what I thought was maybe common sense or what I just had figured out wasn't so common. So I was like, maybe there's something here. Maybe this is actually a business idea. Got the opportunity to shift and got trained as a coach and certified, and then ended up launching an incubator here in Georgia for the Georgia Supreme Court, the 5 law schools, and the state bar. So through that was teaching newer lawyers how to start socially conscious law firms. That work kind of is where I met Sam and Aaron. I attended one of their events and we started talking, and next thing you know, Sam and I were speaking at a conference together, had dinner, and he was like, why don't you come work with us? And I was like, oh, I was just hoping to get on the podcast, but that sounds pretty cool too. So there you go, right? And so now I'm at Lawyerist and helping attorneys.
So, like I'm a big fan of Lawyerist, and I've actually helped at some of your Lawyerist Lab event. So, how would you describe the typical Lawyerist attorney? Who's reading blogs and following you guys, going to your events?
Yeah, I think what makes us have, we were talking about this yesterday. I think it's an attorney who wants to do something different, right? They recognize that their law firm is a business, and so they already have that business mindset, and they don't have it all figured out. That's certainly not required, but they at least have a desire to figure it out and to try new things. And what we're trying to build in our community is a place where you don't always just hear an immediate no, because oftentimes we go to bar events, we go to our other attorney networks, and you say things like alternative pricing or fees or name your thing, remote offices for a while. Like now everyone's getting a taste of what we've been preaching for years. We've been talking about going paperless and living in the cloud and having a remote firm for a really long time. And there's a lot of communities out there that would immediately say, no, that would never work. And what
Right.
we're trying to build is a community of people who are like, yeah, maybe, and let's explore that some more.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's probably why we get along so well, because that, like at GNGF, we look for that type of client for us as well, right? It's somebody who is thinking and understands, I love the lawyering aspect of being a lawyer, but I own a business and I need to think about all the business things in running that, and what, how to make something better and how to be more efficient and all those kind of things. If somebody's like in that mindset, which I would agree, I mean, that is like your lab events are great for that. I mean, it is the brainstorming that goes on from the lawyers, let alone the experts in the room, where it was fascinating. So, and it was awesome to be part of. So
Yeah.
in your work with law firms, where do you see most small and solo firms like really struggling these days? Well, maybe not these days, but because
Yeah.
we're in the middle of COVID right now.
Right. These days is hard. I think they're struggling with, they know they want to be intentional and they want to be client centered. And that's maybe the other thing that keeps our community together, this focus on putting our clients first. But yet the practice of law is so demanding that it's hard for them to find the time and energy they know they need to really focus on their business. I mean, we actually did a workshop yesterday where the goal was, let's find 5 hours a week that you can get off of your plate so that you can spend the time and energy you need building your business, because they know it's valuable. But it's still just so hard to do. And so really it takes a lot of thought and intention in building a whole series of systems for your business. And it absolutely can be done, but it's just not gonna, it's just not something that will happen. You have to be really intentional and make sure you put the time and effort into a lot of different parts of your business to make that happen.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I was just having a conversation with, I think it might have been Kristen from Law Clerk, and we were talking about how just a lot of lawyers, when they're not, like traditionally thinking about their, running their business, right? It's, oh, when I'm not lawyering, I'm not working, right? It's like all these other things are things I need to do more lawyering, right? And it's actually, for a lot of law firms out there, like you were saying, it's realizing that, yeah, lawyering's important and that pays a lot of the bills, and that's, what you got in this for. But there's a whole bunch of things you need to be very intentional about on the non-lawyering side, like like you said, like process and tools and systems and maybe marketing and all these kind of things, right? So these are things that I think a lot of, especially a solo, like that is stuck in this billable world as well, right? A billable hour world. It's hard to get to that point.
Yeah,
So
I was just to say, we were talking about this yesterday with Sam. A lot of tech companies out there are advertising, our tool is going to get you back to what you do best, which is lawyering. And that's a fun slogan, but it kind of misses the concept too, that you're running a business. And I think just because you're doing non-billable work doesn't mean it's not valuable work. And that's the
correct.
mindset shift that lawyers need to make, that actually, if I spend some non-billable time building out something that's going to 10x my business, that's super valuable. So
yeah, and I mean, your best business owners figure out the concept of leverage early on. And I think it's, when you're stuck in that billable hour, it's hard to think of leverage, right? It's, like I'm using tools and people and stuff to be able to provide more value and in more scale. So it's along with that, like, what are some of the common trends then that you're seeing working, one-on-one with lawyers? And you guys are developing tons of resources as well. Like, what are some of the things that lately you've seen coming out of this, in addition to maybe, where to find time to work on these things?
Yeah, a lot of folks are playing around with their pricing models and their delivery models right now, which is, and COVID gives us an opportunity to do that. We've been talking a lot in our community about not the pandemic, but the recession, because unfortunately, that's what I'm afraid we're going to be faced with for a long time. I mean, I'm no economic expert. I just know the impact I'm seeing on my husband's business and all the other business owners that I know, and that really concerns me. And so we're looking at, we know that people are going to need help, and luckily we're the helpers, and which is great for lawyers, right? So people are still going to need us, but maybe the help they need looks a little bit different or feels a little bit different, or we need to offer it or price it differently to be able to meet what, to meet them where they can come. And so I think there's a lot of fun that gives us some room to play and experiment.
Right.
And so I've got a lot of folks who are playing with subscription models and flat fees and different pricing models, and just seeing, what makes sense and really where we can drive profitability. So that's a big focus that we're thinking about, not just raising your revenue, but how can we actually increase your margins?
Right. And so what are, when you talk about some of the alternative pricing or alternative delivery, give me, an example or two for the audience of that. Cause I love the concept, and I'll talk to some people about it. People who haven't been, or maybe read about it or heard of some really good examples, are just, like you said, very fast on the no. Like, no, that doesn't work for me. No, that doesn't work in my town. No, that doesn't work in my practice area, whatever. Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I get this a lot, especially the litigators. They're going to tell me you could never flat fee litigation. And I'm like, sure you can. You're just not, you got to think about it differently. So for
Mm-hmm.
example, and there's lots of different ways we can look at it. So let's just take that litigation example. I've got some attorneys who are looking at a litigation in phases. And we all do that anyway. We all know what the phases of a case go through, right? So in the pleading phase, the initial phase, maybe there's a price that you could put on that. And maybe, I have no idea what the numbers are. I'm just going to make up some numbers here. Maybe that's $1,000 a month. And then when we hit discovery phase, then we know there's extra work to be done. And so maybe the price changes at that point, and then somebody's charged, $3,000 a month. And then at trial, maybe that's a $10,000 a month. I have no idea. One of the reasons I like a model like that, and I think people need to, so the client knows what to expect and the attorney knows what to expect, but it also gives the client an incentive to settle, because we talk about this a lot, especially with family law cases. You don't want to just get a client in a situation where they've paid you everything they have to pay, and now all of a sudden they can go all in over the toaster. I've talked to a family law lawyer who told me yesterday that they had a prolonged case over a garden hose because it wasn't clear if that was a gift or marital property. And finally, the attorneys were like, here's your $25 hose. We're going to buy one for each party just to settle this. But anyway, so that's one pricing model that is a fixed fee. It looks more like a subscription model, and so that you get paid as the case goes on, and maybe those variables change your monthly price. Another way, I have a family law lawyer doing it. She has a menu. So everything is priced out. Here's how much a complaint costs. Here's how much mediation costs. Here's how much a deposition costs. And she's able to sit down with her clients on the front end and make a plan and empower them to make some decisions about their case, based on what they're going to pay, which is what we as consumers do all the time. If I just bought a new car, and this time I was like, you know what? Maybe I don't need a sunroof because that's a silly, feature that, I don't know, it's hot and my husband always likes to keep the cover closed. So then we're not even getting the benefit of it, right? But that's a decision as a consumer I get to make. But in law, with the billable hour, a lot of times we're just giving all that power to the attorneys. And so they get to make all the decisions in the case. They get to decide what work needs to be done, which then has a result in the bill. The client gets the bill, and if they can't pay it, they're just now stuck. And you're, as the attorney, stuck with this AR, where if you had a conversation on the front end and actually figured out what the client could afford, maybe you wouldn't gotten yourself in that situation. That's my little soapbox about all kinds of things.
I mean, you brought up a whole bunch of things there that are interesting, and let's see if we can peel the onion back on a couple. So the first thing is just all the data shows that consumers want to know kind of what things are going to cost up front. And I don't think that should be a surprise, because in our life, there's almost nothing now as a consumer where you don't know the cost before you get into it, right? I mean, even like doctors now, you're encouraged, by your insurance company, everybody to second guess and ask and get the price for all the procedures ahead of time to figure out what insurance is going to cover and everything before you even go into anything, right? So at some of the most complex things, we're being told, get all the prices. And then, people will call a lawyer and they're like, well, it's so much an hour, I can't really give you a price. And that is very, very common, right? That's actually the norm. And so, even the Clio Legal Trends report, right, talked about how that was one of the top 3 items that consumers were looking for when they first interact with the law firm was, what is it going to cost me? So by having, even like you said, those ranges or the menu items and stuff, it's not like, here's I'm telling you exactly what it's going to cost, but here's the factors that go into it. I think it really adds a lot of value up front. And if somebody says, oh, that's not for me, and leaves, that's okay. They didn't leave unhappy, right? They just left oh, I'm more informed now and I can't do that yet.
Yeah. And the biggest pushback I get, attorneys are scared. Number one, it does require work. I'm going to be honest. Yes, it is harder to do. The billable hour puts all the risk on the client and none on you. So doing this does take extra work, but we're scared that if we just tell them up front, I had someone say, well, if I told them their divorce was going to be $60,000, they'd walk out the door. And I was like, and so I was like, well, you can empower them. Number one, they need to know that. So you're just going to set them up for a $60,000 divorce, and then you're going to get to 30 and they're going to run out of money and you're going to be stuck in the case. That doesn't seem like a good solution either. But also, we're just so used to attorneys saying, well, my hourly rate's $325, give me a $5,000 retainer, we'll see where it goes. So they're nervous that if you do what I'm suggesting and have that honest upfront conversation, that the person's going to be freaked out and just go down the road. But I'm sure, and you probably, work with attorneys on this, empower them. Here's a place where you can use some content and give them some information. We love those giveaways. Here are questions, the top 5 things you should ask someone who's going to charge you by the hour. And you can, obviously you're going to ask them in a very creative way that what the answers are going to be. But you can empower your clients that if they are going to go shop because they get scared by your price, that they have the information they need to make a good decision for them.
Right. Yeah, no. And so you've got the upfront piece, right? And then how the process is going to work. I mean, the menu item thing was really interesting, right? The kind of Chinese menu of pricing. And the interesting thing about that is it gives you an opportunity to walk through, well, here's what the process looks like when you go through, in this case, I think it was a divorce, right? You said. Right. So that was the only other things that people wanted, right? It was what is the price and what is the process? What happens through this process? And being able to use your pricing to actually have both conversations, I think that's almost genius, right? That was great for them. You can use your price, right? When you start doing some of that stuff, you can use your price to actually impact some of the consumer behavior, like you mentioned, right? So it's, oh, we're incented to settle now if this is going to keep going on because I'm still in it financially as a consumer versus I paid my money and now I can ask for whatever I want. The other side of it was that AR issue that is, I think it was one of the biggest eye-opening things for me, a few years into working with, nothing but law firms, was the amount of money that's consistently just written off. Yeah. Right. And that, that's just a way to do business, and but no, people don't want to accept a credit card, and then well, people accept credit cards, you would get more payment fast, you have your pricing model figured out better, you would get paid for the idea of writing off 20 to 30% of your AR every year, there's no industry that thinks like that other than legal, right? So that was fascinating to me. So I love that one little, and this is one area, right? One trend area that impacted all these areas of business that are pain points that oftentimes lawyers don't even realize are pain points because it's just been the norm, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
so,
love that.
So let's jump into, all these ideas you guys took, and then you and all your lawyers co-authors, right? So, Sam and Aaron and Marshall, I think, helped with it, right? So yeah. You guys wrote a book, and I have it here because I love the book. It's the Small Firm Roadmap, right? And I still got Post-it notes and dog ears here. So, so you wrote a book on running a small firm, and it's been a great resource, go-to resource for your audience and others. What had you? You've been writing tons of content on your website. You have all these events and stuff. What took you all to the effort of writing a book? Because I know how painful that is. It takes a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, for sure. But we wanted to have a resource that really guided attorneys on the process. Like, here are the steps you can take to get started. And it's not as hard as it seems, because it can be really intimidating. Like, if you're listening to this right now and all this sounds great, but you're like, I have no idea where to start. I mean, we wanted to give you literally the title of the book, a roadmap. Here is a way to get started, and a way to frame how you think about your business. And so it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun, and the reception to it has been great. So we're so thankful that everyone's using it and enjoying it, and that they're getting value from it and help, which is really the whole point.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. So, and I want to talk about, because, you know, we have this great small firm roadmap as a book, but we're running out of time on our Facebook Live. So if you could stick around me for a few more minutes, I wanted to hear about kind of like, what's the roadmap now looking for coming out of like this big crisis we've been through, right? So if you stick around and talk a little bit more about that, if that'd be okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. And we can post that on Friday on our YouTube channel, and we'll get like the extended interview up there. So that would be great. But before we go, where can people find you and the Lawyerist team online?
Yeah, so head to lawyerist.com, so lawyerist.com. You can find me at Stephanie@lawyerist.com. You can get a free chapter, the first chapter of the book, free if you go to lawyerist.com/book. And plus, we just have a ton of resources on the site, so I think you'll find it valuable.
Awesome. So we'll get all those links into the chat. Make sure everybody grabs it, and yeah, go get that free chapter, or in my opinion, go get the book. It's awesome. So thanks so much for joining us, and everybody today, thanks for joining us, and be sure to like and subscribe, of course, our page, so you get notified when our next GNGF Live episode is airing. And we're going to keep going here in the GNGF studios, so be sure to check out the extended interview with Stephanie on Friday. We'll throw it up on our YouTube channel. And we're going to talk more about specific actions and steps that small firms can take and be focused on right now coming out of this pandemic. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us, Stephanie. So I wanted to talk more about, kind of all the, you talked about this roadmap you guys have built, and it was great, and it was awesome, and it was written all before this pandemic. So I want to kind of dive into things like, because everything still applies, but what are maybe some specific things we can think about? Like, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. I know, if you're a DUI or a criminal attorney, I mean, you are just really struggling. And, we've heard from family law, like, what should lawyers be prepared to change or adapt? Or what important decisions maybe should people be thinking about in the coming months?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. Obviously, you need to be ready to run remotely if you're not already. So I think some of us, when this thing first shut down, I'll confess, I was one of them. I mean, our team was remote, so that piece wasn't, a problem. But I thought we were looking at a 2 or 3 week thing. I don't know. I've never lived through a pandemic. So it looks like, as the reports come out, we're looking at this thing being longer and longer. And so if you haven't already gotten your office and your team ready to function remotely, you need to do that now. There's really just no excuse. I've heard from an attorney this week, and he's like, our office is fine, but dealing with opposing counsel has been disastrous. And so we're hearing that there's still a lot of lawyers out there struggling. They've got notes in their office. They're not, I don't know, there's all kinds of problems, and they don't seem to be able to function. And that's just kind of not acceptable in 2020. So get your tech up. We've got a resource right on our homepage for remote ready that's going to walk you through, what does it mean? Like, what's the basic tech setup that you need at home? I've even been telling folks, if you can't figure out, like, go get your desktop from your office and bring it home. Like, there's just no excuse. Get a home setup going and get what you need so that you can function every day. Train your team on using tools like Zoom or whatever you need to do so that you can have some video calls. There's some really simple steps that you can put in place to kind of mirror the interactions you've had with your clients pre-pandemic.
Yeah, I would say I've heard a lot of the same kind of stories of people saying, all my files are in the office, so I'm going back and forth and, bringing banker boxes, back and forth. I have to work from the office because that's where my server is. right? And people are like still
Oh, yeah.
tethered to that server that's, sitting in a closet under the coffee machine probably. So that's, certainly not safe. But like, and I've literally seen that at offices, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah. So, but the idea of like not being remote ready seemed crazy to, a marketing agency that's technology forward that, was built to be remote first. But we get it. I mean, like we have enough lawyer clients to see that, oh, that's the reality, so totally agree. And with all those examples, because like we've heard the same thing. So what are a couple things that maybe people should be focused on right now? So we've talked about getting remote ready, but what are some foundational things? So I've been telling people, it's like, hey, if you're not busy right now, I mean, first of all, that sucks, and we get like revenue and is a struggle right now, but maybe it's a good time to work on that foundation. So what are a couple things that small and solo lawyers can think about in terms of working on my foundation to come out of this stronger?
Yeah, so we've been talking a lot in our communities about pivoting. And to be clear, pivot does not necessarily mean you need to change practice areas.
Mm-hmm,
If you're a
mm-hmm.
criminal defense attorney, I get that you're struggling right now, but that doesn't mean you need to become a bankruptcy attorney, right?
Right.
Like that's a whole lot of work to get up to speed on. But what you can do is get really intentional about who it is you serve and what kind of help do they need? What kind of help do they need now? And what are they going to need, 3 months, 6 months, a year from now? And I know you work with your clients on this. So really getting clear about who is your ideal client, what does that profile look like, and what help do they need, and how can you provide that help? That is great work for you to be thinking about right now. So maybe the pivot isn't necessarily practice areas, but maybe the pivot is in thinking about what help looks like, thinking about your offer, your value, or even just your value proposition. Maybe the offer stays the same, but how you need to talk about it in your marketing might need to change based on where people are right now. And so those are all great exercises that you can do right now, and they don't even require technology. And bonus points, pick up the phone and call your people, call current clients, call past clients, and check in on them. Number one, it's just a good thing to do right now, and people really want that connection. So just picking up the phone and saying, hey, how are you doing? Like, this is crazy. I never thought we'd be in a pandemic. Did you? Are you holding up okay? It's going to show you care, but they're going to give you such valuable information about what's going on, what kind of help they could look like. And you never know, it may even just shake loose some new work where they're like, actually, I've been meaning to call you because such and such just happened. Maybe they didn't get arrested today, but their brother-in-law got arrested 6 months ago, and now they need to really get that solved. Or maybe there's an expungement issue that's been hanging out for whatever long time. So the point is, there is stuff you can be doing, and just even as simple as connecting with clients and past clients is a great way to spend your time right now if you haven't already started doing that.
It's interesting. I mean, it matches right up with, it's actually taking it even a step further, but I've been telling people, like go through those client files. Like I think attorneys in general, we get so, they get so busy, and it's like they forget to pull that information out and put it into an email list and have like some way to kind of touch people. And then I'm like, right now, when we're all trapped at home, when the mailman comes to the door, it's like the big exciting moment of the day, right? So like maybe send some snail mail, right? Like create a little newsletter, that you would normally email, and like mail it to somebody. Because but picking up the phone, I mean, that's taking a step further. And if you have the time, like that would be a wonderful idea. So just taking all those steps and just taking all the way to the actual personal one, it's going to be great. And then I mean, if you're in criminal stuff, there's like in your state has like all the rules that you can take advantage of. Like go back through your files and maybe email the people that, hey, in these 3-4 months, here's some people who are, eligible for that. So great idea. So in the areas we talked about, like finances, so we talked about remote ready. We've talked about finances a little bit. We just talked a little bit about kind of like client outreach. What's maybe one action step you could leave people with after, watching, saying, okay, if I do this one thing, that's going to move the ball forward for the next, week or so, that I can, just grasp out of this?
Yeah. So in addition to being remote ready and looking at your ideal client and really getting clear on who you serve and how you need to serve them, the final piece that I would leave you with that I think is super important is get a hold of your cash. Like, understand, I know lawyers, I'm a lawyer, so I can say this, right? Sometimes we tend to manage our accounting by just thinking, I feel like there's some money in the bank account. And maybe now is not the time to do that. I mean, never is the time to do that, but especially right now. So you need to understand how much cash you have today and what the cash flow implications for your business are going forward. Now more than ever, you have got to be intentional, and you need to understand exactly how much money is coming in and what needs to go out. So if you don't already have a cash management system, again, we have a tool right on the top of our website on the homepage that we've put up there in light of this to help people. But please go figure out your cash, because you want to be ahead of it. You want to be, if there's a problem coming down the pike in 6 weeks, you can do something about it now. But you're not going to be able to do something about it if you don't figure it out until 7 weeks from now.
Right, and there's some great resources for that. So yeah, check out the Lawyerist resource. There's some great books out there, but that is one area where I've heard a lot. I can't remember who it was. Somebody had told me once, well, there's enough gross, there's some net in there somewhere. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. You could have a lot of gross and have no net, so. But that's, like you said, that's how sometimes people think, right? They're so used to this expensive billable hour that there was always a little bit left at the end of the day. But knowing your runway, knowing, like what the cash position looks like, if what would be your scenarios, those are huge. And I mean, I think all of us have been, going back and double checking, like our own numbers and stuff, even that practice this regularly. It's just maybe a little bit easier for us because, we have all the data there, but
and you and I talked about this too. So I want to make sure we make this point. There's opportunity right now, guys. Like, this isn't, I know it sometimes just feels crazy, but I think there's a lot of business opportunity, and not in a slimy way, but maybe there's a chance for you to move some money and invest in your marketing, invest in new marketing tools that you didn't use before, double down on some things. I mean, Lawyerist is hiring right now. So by the way, if you know any candidates, send them our way. So there's going to be great talent out on the market in a couple, unfortunately, right, as a result of some people making layoffs and things. You want to be in a position to take advantage of those things. So make sure the back of the house is in order so that you can do those things.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got, people who are calling us up and saying, hey, these ads on Facebook that we've always been running are working better than ever. Can we put more money there? We're like 70-something% traffic increase to websites from Facebook right now. I mean, everybody's at home on Facebook apparently. So right. Yeah, I mean, taking advantage of that, and looking at if you understand your numbers, then sometimes you can go, oh, there is room to invest in these areas, whether it be marketing or technology and tools and processes, so you can hire somebody else, or outsourcing, investing in some of the outsourcing tools like Law Clerk or something like that. Yeah. So. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sticking around with me and diving into like a little more detail about what people can do, taking your roadmap and saying specific to today, specific to the situation people are facing right now. So helpful, and always great to talk to you. I will agree that we both were having conversations about, right, leading up to this, about like, oh, it's only going to be a 2-week blip. And, we were still talking about how, when, we're going to be flying and going to events still. And all this craziness happened like within like 3 or 4 days. Lab became a virtual event like overnight. So, and great job on that, by the way. That was an awesome event. So
no, thank you. We're so glad you got to come and participate. It's always fun hanging out with you, because you bring so much to the community, which I love.
Thank you. Awesome. Well, have a great day, Stephanie, and we'll catch up with you later.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, what's up? I'm Josh. Thanks so much for joining us. If you feel like you learned something today, think of how beneficial it would be to chat with myself or another one of our marketing consultants one-on-one. Go ahead and visit our website to schedule your free consultation. It only takes a minute.